Hey everybody, and welcome back to the show, 10,000 Heroes. This is another of my solo cast installments, which I'm trying out this quarter. And really, what I want to get to is how to throw an amazing dinner party, because I think that's where it all starts. But somehow, last time I started with this whole thing about the Teal Society, and there's just inertia that's pulling me forward there. So I'm going to continue this, but hopefully end up at the dinner party soon. So to recap, the notion of the Teal Society, and there's like much more intellectually coherent explanations out there, but for our purposes, it's something about integrating different points of view and maybe a little bit of like loving your enemies on the side there. And it takes a kind of superhuman dispassion, like a lack of being over involved with the moment. It's a balance, of course, being in the now, but not reacting to the now. And as an example of that, I just wanted to share this bizarre facet of human history, which is one of Gandhi's letters to Hitler. This is in December of 1940, December 24th. So a year after the Second World War started. I'm not sure, but I think a lot was known about Hitler's atrocities by this point, though maybe not the full scale of what happened in the concentration camps. But it's like pretty clear that Hitler's a pretty bad guy, not only as just a guy who's invading other countries and starting wars, but even beyond that, all the other stuff that happened. So that's the context here. And Gandhi is a personal hero of mine, and also I'm aware that there's a lot of people who just hate Gandhi, and I've met a lot of them actually through my travels in India. So he's controversial for some people. I think for the majority of people he's probably not. But this is one of the things that the people who hate Gandhi love quoting. So I'm just going to read part of it and then connect it with another aspect of the Teal Society, which is true science. I'm going to call it true science, like really not convenient science, but true science. We'll get into that. And hopefully we'll get to the dinner party soon. So this is the letter to Hitler. That I address you as a friend is no formality. I own no foes. My business in life has been, for the past 33 years, to enlist the friendship of the whole of humanity by befriending mankind, irrespective of race, color, or creed. So I think when he says creed, he's even including Nazism and other stuff he's not down with. I hope you will have the time and desire to know how a good portion of humanity who have been living under the influence of that doctrine of universal friendship view your action. We have no doubt about your bravery or devotion to your fatherland, nor do we believe that you are the monster described by your opponents. All right, so he's like able to see some like positive qualities in Hitler, which is just mystifying, I think, to a lot of people, including myself. But your own writings and pronouncements and those of your friends and admirers leave no room for doubt that many of your acts are monstrous and unbecoming of human dignity, especially in the estimation of men like me who believe in universal friendliness. Then he talks about what happened in Czechoslovakia, Poland, Denmark. I am aware that your view of life regards such spoliations, it's a new word for me, as virtuous acts. But we have been taught from childhood to regard them as acts degrading humanity. Hence, we cannot possibly wish success to your arms. And then he goes on to say how he's in this complicated position because Hitler's in war with England, and the Nazis are at war with England, and Gandhi's been in this like multi-decade process of trying to throw off the yoke of British imperialism. And so he sees Hitler and the German war machine as another kind of imperialism. So it's like not that different than the British Empire for him. But yet he's still he's like, hey, I suspended my whole nonviolent struggle during this war because clearly there's a lot going on. I'm not trying to cause any harm to anybody. So let the British fight their war. We'll get back to our nonviolent struggle when it's done. And he's like, but then he's asking Hitler to stop the war. Of course, Hitler doesn't do it. But yeah, the last, I therefore appeal to you in the name of humanity to stop the war. But the part that is the crystal of this for me, which is just so key to Gandhi in my attempt to understand Gandhi, and I spent a whole month actually in a pilgrimage in India many years ago, walking exactly in his footsteps, just trying to understand him because I couldn't do it through reading alone. That's a whole other story. But the point is that Gandhi he has a superhuman ability to distinguish between Hitler the person and Hitler the actions. And that is what's coming out in this letter that I think most of us will find incredibly bizarre. Because he says, nor do we believe that you are the monster described as your opponents. And then he's like, yeah, and all of your writings and pronouncements and actions are totally monstrous. But he's able to make that distinction between doing monstrous acts and being a monster. So that to me is at the core of like the Gandhi, Jesus, love your enemy, Martin Luther King thing. And so now I want to put that aside next to this parallel, what I called it true science. I don't know what that actually means. But the scientific method, I think, is really similar to this when done well. And there's just a lot to admire in people who can do it well. And most of us don't at all. So like the scientific method, again, in my like 10,000 feet overview understanding is this 4-part process. Or 1, you make a wild guess. 2, you come up with a way of testing if that guess is valid or not. 3, you actually do the method that you came up with and you test it. And then 4, you evaluate whether your guess is correct without any attachment to what the guess was. You're just making a guess that's going to give you information about this problem. And whether it's true or not, both are successful experiments in getting you closer to understanding what you want to understand. So then you can run another experiment with another guess that you have no attachment to. And so that process, the scientific method, is really so far, this is my contention, from how we normally make decisions. And, those of you who read Daniel Kahneman, familiar with this, or those 2 French sociologists, I forget their names, but they wrote this book a couple of years ago that I read, and it just blew me away. They were like, well, from what we've studied, people use rationality just to convince other people that they're right, not actually to get to the truth. And I think that's most of how we use all of our wonderful, convincing argumentation. But the real scientist is not doing that. The real scientist is not, what most of us are doing, including myself, most of the time, is we have an intuition, we have a sense of what we want, and then we use all of our like nice words and our logic and our reason to convince ourselves and other people that that's the right thing to do. And then we go ahead and do the thing that we wanted to do anyways. And this it might make sense if our intuition is correct, but that's like the little trouble with intuition is that it's very difficult to know whether it's correct. It's like, it can often be the right thing, but you just don't know because it's intuition. It's not verifiable in that way. The point I'm trying to make is that actually making decisions in our lives rationally and scientifically according to that process is just as valuable, superhuman, and rare as what Gandhi's doing with this loving your enemies. And in some way, they're the same thing. They're the same level of, I'm probably going to have to grow a lot to do that. So, and 2 very valuable skills I think we're going to need for the Teal Society. So there's that. And then there's this dinner party that it's like I know the first couple acts of the story. I know where it's going to end up. I don't know how we're going to get there. But maybe that'll be next time, is this dinner party. Because I love dinner parties. And I see the dinner party as the crucible of interpersonal transformation and delight and vulnerability and openness. So next time will be the formula for that. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is Martin San, your producer. I just want to take a minute to thank you for listening to our show. 10,000 Heroes is brought to you by the team at Momentum Lab. Pierre does our artwork, DJ Plainview composes our theme music, and I handle all the editing and production. If you like the show, please follow it, rate it, tell all your friends about it, and write to us. That really helps us make the impact we want to make. And now, we're closing this episode with a word from our main sponsor, who also happens to be our host. Anchor.
And now a message from our sponsor, me again. 10,000 Heroes is brought to you by Momentum Lab. I normally refer to Momentum Lab as a coaching program or a goal accelerator, but it's really more like a master's degree in life. When you join Momentum Lab, we help you get crystal clear on what it is you actually want, who you want to be, what you want to do, and how you want to contribute. And then we get into all the painful details of what has been blocking you this whole time. And then we give you the knowledge, the tools, and the support you need to get there. Sometimes that's a spreadsheet, sometimes it's a mindset hack, sometimes it's a lecture, and sometimes it's a hug. Our only attachment is to your higher self. So, when you're ready to be the next version of yourself, in your business, for your family, or just for your own sense of fulfillment, drop me a line.